The CIVDIV team is growing, and David is going to give you a crash course on every single thing you need to know about VA home loans.
Whiskey 9 Yankee 7 November Golf, over.
Military service comes with many sacrifices, but when it comes to home ownership, the VA home loan is here to help. My name is David Piatek with VA Housing Education. We help military families understand and leverage the VA home loan across the country. From getting financing to working with experienced realtors, check out my channel, VA Housing Education. Like and subscribe for more content like this. It's important to understand the history of the VA home loan because there are a lot of misconceptions around the program, and a part of that is due to the program evolving and veterans not getting the updated information, hence passing down the wrong information. We see it all the time. The VA home loan was introduced in 1944 with the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, also known as the GI Bill of Rights. The VA home loan played a crucial role in helping veterans transition back to civilian life, as it still does today by making home ownership accessible. That's why after World War II, there was a housing boom with approximately 13 million eligible veterans armed with the VA home loan. Over the years, the VA home loan program was expanded and refined. During the Vietnam War era, the program was amended to include eligibility for those serving during peacetime. That opened up the program significantly. The Veterans Housing Act of 1970 removed termination dates to use the benefits and began to place a limit on the size of the loan. That's why even today, people still think there's a limit on when you can use the VA home loan, or that you can only use it once. Another huge milestone and a big win was the Blue Water Navy Vietnam Veterans Act of 2019. Now that's a mouthful to say right there. That basically eliminated loan limits for borrowers with full VA loan entitlement. Basically, if you're eligible and qualified for a $2 million home, you can buy without any money down. I should also cover what is full VA entitlement. In a nutshell, it basically means you don't have an outstanding VA home loan at the time of closing on your new property. Here's a good example. If you're selling your current property with a VA loan, you can still get pre-approved with full entitlement if you sell your home before purchasing a new property with a VA home loan. We normally see people sell in the morning and purchase in the afternoon. So it's not like you have to sell your home, be homeless for a week, and then purchase a property. You could do it all in the same day. Now let's talk about eligibility for a VA home loan. You have two criteria to use the VA home loan. Eligibility, do you meet the criteria for length of service and character of discharge? And qualification, do you meet the credit, income, asset standards in order to use the VA home loan? You need both to use the VA loan. Let's first break down eligibility. To determine your eligibility, you need to get a certificate of eligibility, also known as a COE. Now, we love our abbreviations, and it's a pretty simple process actually. You can schedule a call with one of my team members. The link to schedule a call is in the description below, and you can obtain your certificate of eligibility. It's going to outline how much entitlement you have. And don't worry, it will say this veteran's entitlement's $36,000, providing you don't have an outstanding VA home loan. If you do, then it gets a little bit more complicated. That doesn't mean you can only buy a home for $36,000. It means you don't have a limit on what you can purchase without a down payment. But remember, you still need to be qualified for the mortgage payment, which we're going to cover here in a little bit. The COE will also outline if you are exempt from paying the VA funding fee. It's a fee the VA charges in order to use the VA home loan, and it's the only fee on a purchase that can be rolled into the mortgage. You still have to pay closing costs unless you negotiate with the seller to pay for them. If you have a service-connected disability, you don't pay the VA funding fee no matter what your rating is. You may be also exempt from paying property taxes on your home if you meet certain VA disability percentages based on the city, county, or state requirements. They're all different. We'll also cover that in later videos. Another part of eligibility is time in service, and it varies based on active duty, guard, and reserve. They all have different requirements. If you're a veteran, meaning you're not serving anymore in any capacity, this one's pretty straightforward. If you serve 24 months on active duty, you have the VA home loan for life. If you were medically discharged, even if you served 1 day, you're eligible for the VA home loan. Getting a COE is the first step in the process. I can't tell you guys how many times military members thought they can use the VA home loan and weren't eligible. I see this happen to military members that get pre-approved because their lender assumes they're eligible, and about a week from closing on their dream home, they get denied for the VA home loan. Don't let that happen to you. Now let's go back and cover currently serving military members. If you're currently serving on active duty, you'll need to serve 181 continuous days or more during peacetime, basically 6 months, and boom, you're eligible to use the VA home loan. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you should be buying a home before you even assign to your first duty station. If you serve during wartime, then it's 90 consecutive days or more, and you're eligible for the VA home loan. Now, for National Guard and Reserve members, you need to serve 6 years on M-Day status that includes your drill weekends and annual training. But this doesn't include prior service or deployments. It's extremely important to understand that many Guard and Reserve members disqualify themselves. If you served 2 years on active duty before joining the Guard or Reserve, you're eligible for the VA home loan. It supersedes it. If you deployed 90 days or more consecutive on Title 10 orders while in the Guard or Reserve, you're eligible for the VA home loan, even if you only served a year or half a year. Basically, you get out of service or you get out of basic training, join your unit, you deploy, boom, you have the VA home loan. It's actually crazy, what they did for National Guard members. They adjusted what the criteria is to use your benefits. I'll include a link in the description about that, and we'll also cover that in later videos. Now, when it comes to the character of discharge for active duty folks, you'll need to be either honorable or general, and for Guard and Reserve, you have to have an honorable discharge. Now, let's talk about the advantages of the VA home loan and what to be on the lookout for. First off, it's a great program, and you shouldn't be steered away from the VA home loan program because your lender or realtor is scared of the VA home loan or they hear horror stories around the VA home loan. Trust me, there are plenty of horror stories out there because veterans get lied to or duped by marketing to work with certain lending and real estate groups that are quote-unquote military friendly. That's why we created VA Housing Education, to empower and educate military members and their families on how the program works and inform you so you can make the decision for what you want to do. You don't need a down payment, but that doesn't mean you can't put money down. It will help decrease your monthly payment, and it reduces how much you pay for a VA funding fee. There's a whole chart to that. Remember, if you're not putting money down and you're rolling in the VA funding fee, that means you have negative equity off the bat, which also, when you're thinking about home ownership, you're going to be thinking about how long you're going to stay somewhere. Because if you're only going to stay there for, let's say, a year, it might not even make sense to purchase a property. So you have to think about all of that and how that is factored in. So if you haven't filed for your VA disability, this is something that you'd want to think about. This is why the CIVDIV is your resource for those benefits and how to get started. Another benefit is there's no prepayment penalties with VA home loans. So if you want to make extra payments, you want to pay off the mortgage early before the 30 years is up, you can do so with no penalties. Huge positives, but let's talk about something that doesn't get talked about. The average closing cost to buy a home across the country is about 3% of the purchase price, which isn't bad. But military members typically pay 5 to 6% in closing costs. Why is that? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Large lending institutions that focus on the military charge military members and their families 2 to 3% in junk fees. That's why, by the way, working with us, you don't pay those fees. In fact, you'll probably get a better deal. People reach out to us all the time to review their closing documents after watching videos like this, and it's heartbreaking the costs we see that they were charged that didn't have to get charged, and they wipe out their savings because of that. Think about this. If you're buying a $400,000 home, you're going to get charged about $12,000 in junk fees because a company has great marketing or you bank with them. Think about what you can do with that money. That's why we do what we do, making homeownership more affordable and within reach. Now, we've talked about the history, eligibility criteria, and advantages of the VA home loan. Let's dive into the broad qualification requirements for a VA home loan, because remember, everyone's situation is unique. I want you to keep something important in mind. Never disqualify yourself from getting a VA home loan. Everyone's situation is unique, and the only way to actually find out if you're qualified is by talking with an experienced VA loan officer that knows all the ins and outs. So we're going to go over the general qualification requirements. You need a source of income, a way to pay for your mortgage. Typically, you're going to pay the principal and interest portion along with real estate taxes, and homeowners insurance are going to be included in your overall mortgage payment, and that's what you need to qualify for, on top of any additional liabilities that you have. And the VA also has some quirks around that. Now, if you're exempt from paying property taxes, the payment will update once that kicks in. So you have to give that some time. Different states work in different ways. Now, when we look at full-time W-2 income, we're looking at a 2-year history, but don't worry, there's a lot of leniency around that. And I'm gonna give you guys a couple examples. If you have a job gap, that's okay. If you're in school and started a new full-time job with an offer letter, that's also okay. You can also qualify for the VA home loan without that 2-year quote-unquote history, because we can use school as part of that your history for that. If you're unemployed for 2 years and then took a job that required you to complete employer training and you received the certification of completion, that also works. So again, don't disqualify yourself. We have a lot of wiggle room with the VA home loan. Even if you're not working, but your spouse is gainfully employed, you can use their sole income to qualify. Furthermore, if you receive VA disability income, Social Security, or retirement income, you can use that income right away to qualify. And better yet, if that income is tax-free, we can actually give you another 25% in income to qualify for the VA home loan. If you're working a part-time job, you'll need a solid 2-year work history. There's no exceptions to that, but there are some perks too. As long as you have a year, you can actually offset some of your short-term debt by that income. So there's some pros to that. So always disclose whatever your situation is to the lender. Now, when it comes to 1099 and self-employment income, you typically need 2 years of income along with 2 years of tax returns. The only exception to that is if you are in a specialized industry with a W-2 job and then transitioned into a 1099 job in the same line of work, then we can look at a year of that income, but that is a case-by-case basis. The same applies to commission income. Even though you're a W-2 employee, but more than 25% of your income comes from commission, you're treated as self-employment. I know it's not fair, but that's how the VA lays it out. Again, don't disqualify yourself. Schedule a call with us. The link is in the description. When it comes to credit scores, the VA doesn't have a minimum credit score, but most lenders have a minimum. For example, we go down to 500 credit score, but you start running into stricter loan requirements, higher lending costs, and higher interest rates, which nobody likes. If you're thinking about purchasing a year out, start working on your credit. A decent spot to be at or above is 620 FICO score, and a sweet spot 680 or higher, because the rate really won't change that much once you go past that. Remember, the higher your credit score, the better financing terms you'll get, but it doesn't mean you can't refinance later when rates drop, which again, that's like a whole separate program of the VA home loan. Now, we could spend hours talking about the various VA home loan benefits, strategies, and real estate. Today, we scratched the surface. Remember, it's important not to disqualify yourself. Schedule a call with us and let's dive into your situation. The link is in the description, or go to vahousingeducation.com. Be on the lookout for more weekly content with the CIVDIV and my YouTube channel. Talk to you guys soon.